Hallie Evans and Kylie Tanner. So please rise for a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies. If it gets in the way.
I'd like to say a very special welcome to all of our visitors. Thank you for being with us tonight and showing interest in our children and our school district. We appreciate that more than you know. Mr. Stepp, our special recognition.
Yes, so tonight we want to recognize our students who participated in the Tennessee School Board Association's SCOPE, SCOPE. So annually, TSBA hosts the Student Congress on Policies in Education, SCOPE Conference, which brings together 9th through 12th grade students from across the state to discuss certain topics in education. Participants will explore education issues through mock school board meetings, group discussions, and debates with their peers. These events are designed to give students an understanding of how school boards operate. So the following students represented Cumberland County Schools: Owen Brown, Cammie Farley, Emily Griffiths, Camden Holbrook, and Elijah Vandenberg. Please come.
Mr. Stick, may I ask them a question?
Absolutely.
What was your debate topic? We'll turn around and face it.
Yeah, quite a few actually. I'm trying to remember them all. They did one about whether or not we should have DoorDash policies at school. It's been a while. It's been like a month. Ours was if club sports could take a PE credit. Yeah.
That's interesting.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Great
Yes,
job.
thank you.
Are you just going to stay down there for the kids' first award? Next on the agenda is the kids' first award.
Mr. Atkins, would you please come up? Jason Atkinson.
Jason.
How you guys doing?
Very good, thank you.
Good. It's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Tabitha Troglin. We nominated her for the Kids First Award. And I'm going to read a little bit about her. She's been volunteering to help with CCHF FFA for the last 5 years. She's been a tremendous asset to our program. She's put in countless hours chaperoning field trips, coaching judging teams, helping with fundraisers, just pretty much anything that we need. She is always there. She was instrumental in helping establish and start the Farm Day, the Fall Farm Day that I know some of you guys have been to. We've done it the past 2 years. She's been there from start to finish both years. Tremendous help there. She's also been instrumental in establishing our partnership with Avagen. I don't know if you guys know that, but we have had a 12-week program with Avagen this year, both at CCHS and at Stone, where our kids have got to experience all aspects of the poultry industry from one of the leading poultry companies in America, in the world. So it's been a tremendous asset for us and our kids to see what kind of jobs are out there and what kind of jobs are available in Cumberland County for the poultry industry. So she's done that. Just anything you ask, she's more than willing to do. And not just me, but I got a phone call from SMHS and several other people saying Tabitha needs this award, and we couldn't be more pleased that she got it. So, Ms. Tabitha Troglin.
The Kids First Award awarded to Tabitha Troglin for exceptional selfless service to the kids at Cumberland County Schools. Thank you for your continued support and love for our kiddos. So congratulations.
Okay, next on the agenda is the roll call. Ms. Stull. Here. Mr. Safdie.
Here.
Ms. Nichols. Here. I forget the last names. I call you guys by the first names. Ms. Hamby.
I'm here.
Ms. Hale.
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Ms. Stout.
Here.
The chair is here. I would also like to welcome our student representative, Neil Parak. Did I get it? From SMHS. Next on the agenda is the declaration of conflict. Mr. Pack.
Board members, Tennessee Code annotated 49.2, Section 202 defines relative as a spouse, parent, parent-in-law, child, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, grandparent, grandchild, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, or any nephew, niece, or any person that resides in your same household. Any of you that have such a relative as defined by statute, please raise your right hand and let the record reflect Ms. Boston and Mr. King are raising their hands. And do each of you hereby certify that the votes that you make tonight will be in the best interest of the Cumberland County School System, regardless of the impact that your vote may have on the employment of your relatives?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Let the record reflect they affirm.
Thank you. Approval of the regular and the special called minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
You want to do all, group them together? Okay.
Sure.
We have a motion and a second to approve the special call meeting, March the 15th, March the 16th regular meeting, April the 5th special call minutes, and April the 13th special call minutes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda with one amendment. Number 15, Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, in other words, JROTC, would have an asterisk by it so we could vote on that program.
Okay.
And there is not. So if we could make that amendment to the agenda.
I will second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. This time, we would like to acknowledge our elected officials. I think we have Ms. Colleen Mall and Ms. Sue York. Thank you both for being here.
And Mr. Potter.
Oh, John, you slipped in. John, welcome. We're glad you're here with us.
Thank you.
We always appreciate our county commissioners being here. They support our schools in so many different ways, and we appreciate you taking the time. Okay, community comments. I think we have only one. Ms. Timpson, if you would be so kind. Please state your name and your address. I think we know who you are.
All right, it's on. My name is Julia Timpson. I reside at 6960 South York Highway, Clark Range, Tennessee, but I live most of the time at North Cumberland Elementary, which is 7657 Highway 127 North, the one with all the construction in front of it. Can't miss us. I want to talk to you tonight about, there's two different things. One, Mr. Stepp was so kind to petition the state to get us these PD days, professional development days. The only thing that I've had several concerns about are the dates. The 23rd and 24th. The 23rd at North Cumberland is Honors Day. We will be busy from 7:40 that morning until about 7 o'clock that night because we're having all of our programs on the same day. Well, I took the liberty to look at your agenda and go through every single calendar, and every single elementary school also has either honors programs or field trips. Now, can those dates be changed? Sure, they could, but we have several parents that have already asked off work. to have, because especially at North, because ours are all on the same day, they only have to take one day off, and they can come to several honors. The only thing I wish that we'd done maybe is change it to the 12th and the 19th, and I know with the state, you have to put the dates down, I know that. But I wish that we could have taken those 2 Fridays. I think parents could stomach that easier. I know that as teachers, we were just a little worried that we're going to have to change the whole world around. I know Pineview, I looked at their calendar, 2nd through 4th grade's taking a field trip on the 24th. That's a huge bunch of their kids that are going to be gone on a field trip. So I just ask that when you look at that, please think about that. I don't know if Mr. Stepp can change the dates at this point with the state. Maybe it's something to look at for next year if we know in advance. Maybe that's something that we could do. The other, and that's, I've had just several teachers contact me and say, I am freaking out because I have field trips planned and I have honors planned. And so I just want you to think about it. I'm not at all trying to be disrespectful or overstep anybody. I understand, and teachers roll with the punches every day. We change every day, and we think about those things. So I just want you to consider, and maybe we can. Maybe the state could change it and we could choose 2 different dates that are a little bit easier on the calendars. If you'll look through your calendars and you have them on your agenda, you would see how much is packed in that last week. Because I don't like to be at school without kids. That's what I signed up for. I like to be at school with the kids, and especially when they get to be awarded honors and things. And I know their parents are thrilled about that too. So that's all I wanted to say to you. There was one more thing, but I can't think of what it was, so it doesn't matter. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Timpson, for your comments.
Thank you. Okay, well, that gives us something to think about. Next on the agenda is the school board reports. I think, Ms. Stapp, your TLN report.
I do. I have a TLN report for y'all tonight. So this is gonna kind of wrap things up, although if there's more to report, I will report more next month as well. But the General Assembly finished their business for the year and adjourned this last Friday on the 21st. They're gonna reconvene at noon on Tuesday, January 9th, next year. The items that I'm reporting, or the legislation I'm reporting on tonight, is on money. It's on some of the legislation that we've been tracking together, that we've shown an interest in tracking, and also legislation that may require the board or the district to make changes. So I thought it'd be important for everybody to know. So first off, with money, the budget was passed by the General Assembly. They've approved $56.2 billion for the fiscal year of 23-24. The summary of the K through 12 public education items that are going to be funded during the upcoming year are more than $1 billion in overall TISA funding, $140 million for one school resource officer for each public school, $40 million for school safety grants, $125 million to increase teachers' salaries. $21.5 million to increase funding for summer learning camps, $10 million for summer transportation grants, $7.6 million for tutoring services for K through 3 students who may be retained, and $15.5 million for 6 weeks paid family leave for school district employees. Now, there was a House bill and a Senate bill that was out there for increasing the teacher pay through yearly incremental plan up to the minimum of $50,000 by the 26-27 school year. And that has passed and was included in that budget for the General Assembly. So that has passed. So we will need to work on that with our budgets in order to anticipate that coming. There was a bill out there for reimbursement of licensure expenses by the DOE of obtaining I'm reverting to my prior state, Tennessee license or endorsement while employed in a Tennessee LEA. So we were looking at that to see if our staff, faculty, teachers would be able to take advantage of that. But that was taken off notice when it was in the Finance Ways and Means Committee on the 18th of April. So off notice means it was pulled back, so it died at that point. So maybe we'll see it again next session, but something to keep an eye on. The favorite third grade retention bill was passed by the House and Senate. So these are the amendments to that bill that there's been so much discussion about. Right now, it's awaiting Governor Lee's signature. So the new bill is going to allow the following things. Students who receive a TCAP score of approaching and are in the 50th percentile or above to be promoted to the 4th grade, as long as they're provided with summer school and tutoring options. School systems have permission to assist parents of 3rd graders who are being retained with the appeals process. It's going to require that data be tracked to determine the effectiveness of summer school, tutoring, and student retention. Also require that data be reported to the Tennessee General Assembly. It's going to require that any student who's retained in grades K through 3 be provided with a tutor for remediation purposes. And it also gives the Tennessee Department of Education permission to contract up to 3 qualified tutoring agencies. So they broaden the scope of criteria for holding back or retention at 3rd grade. There's some additional things to work with as we move forward here towards the end of the school year. There was a bill out there that passed. It's House Bill 0322 and Senate Bill 0274, and it placed new safety requirements on schools. All newly built or remodeled schools will have bulletproof windows and doors. An armed security guard will be placed at every public school. There are also requirements to increase mental health resources and for every public and private school to make annual safety plans. Additionally, a state-level safety team will be established by the Commissioner of Safety, which will include a representative from the Department of Education and the following agencies: TBI, Homeland Security, Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, Department of Health, State Board of Education, Tennessee Association of School Resource Officers, Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, the Tennessee Sheriff's Association, the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police. The bill is also going to require that each school safety team, private school, and church-related school do at least one of the following each year: an armed intruder drill conducted in coordination with the appropriate law enforcement agency, incident command drill without students present to prepare school staff and law enforcement agencies on what to expect in the event of an emergency situation in the school, emergency safety bus drill without students present to prepare school staff and law enforcement agencies on what to expect in the event of an emergency situation on a school bus. So that's been passed by the Senate and the House. It's been signed by both the speakers, and it's awaiting the governor's signature. So some of these things we do already, which is great. We're on the forefront of this. But a few more things that we're going to want to be looking at, which should help enhance the safety for our students and faculty and staff, which is good.
Is Governor Lee calling them back in session for some reason? Is that the safety?
No. No,
Is
they're
it-
talking about a special session that's having to do with the gun laws.
Got it.
My understanding, nothing with the safety or with the budget or anything along those lines.
Okay, so not for safety, school safety or anything like that?
That's my understanding.
Shannon,
Yeah.
there was a bill proposed by East Tennessee legislature to remove the requirements for class size.
That's coming.
Oh, you're still going?
It's coming. I'm still going. I'm not done.
I
I
apologize.
thought we were over.
No, it was huge.
No. We have a bill, HB 0424 SB 1221, that authorized a person who teaches under a temporary permit to satisfy the clinical experience required of candidates of an educator preparation provider for licensure if certain requirements are met. So this is one of the TSBA initiatives in order to move new teachers, into place. So that was passed by both the Senate and the House and signed by both speakers, and it's awaiting the governor's signature. So hopefully that'll help with some staffing opportunities. The class size requirement bill that you were just talking about, Mr. Safdie, that was to leave the max class size limit in place with the option of the LEA to request a waiver from the Department of Education to exceed the maximum class size. That actually did not pass in the K through 12 subcommittee, and that was back in March. So that bill's done for this session.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's a couple more that I just wanted to bring up because I thought the teachers would be interested in knowing, and we as a board would be interested in knowing, House Bill 0158, Senate Bill 0102, which prohibits Tennessee public school districts from forcing teachers to participate in implicit bias training. And that was passed by the Senate, House. It's waiting both the Speaker and Governor's signatures right now. There is a bill that addresses books that meet the definition of obscene in state law, that they do not need to come up for review or vote by an LEA, but should instead be immediately removed. The bill states that books that contain nudity in whole or in part, descriptions or depictions of sexual excitement, sexual conduct, excess violence, sadomasochistic abuse, as those terms are defined in the Tennessee Code, if it's patently offensive or appeals to the prudent interest, must not be maintained in a school's library collection. The bill also sets a time limit of 60 days from when a complaint is filed about an obscene book in the school library collection. If a school board does not vote on a book in the time period, it will be deemed inappropriate, removed, and then sent for review to the Tennessee Textbook and Instructional Materials Quality Commission. So that's been passed by the Senate and House and is awaiting the Speaker and Governor's signatures. My final one. House Bill 1269 and Senate Bill 0466 specifies that a teacher or other employee of a public school or LEA is not required to refer to a student using the student's preferred pronoun if the pronoun is not consistent with the student's biological sex and insulates a teacher or other employee of a public school or LEA from civil liability and adverse employment action for referring to a student using the pronoun that is consistent with the student's biological sex. And that was passed in the Senate and House and is awaiting the Speaker and Governor's signatures. So, very small summary of a lot of bills that are out there this legislative
I
session.
think there was 250-ish education bills this year. It's a lot.
Yeah. It
I think
was.
third grade retention took the lead.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is reports from training. Is there any board member that has attended training that would like to share with us?
Since the last board meeting that I've been here, I've attended the Understanding the ADA laws and Understanding Student Data Privacy laws. So, virtually.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, legal report?
I've advised the board in the past concerning a case styled Humphreys versus Gelfand. That is a case that stems from a bus accident that was not our bus driver's fault back in April of 2021. That case, the only reason the board was named in that case is because we have insurance that has an uninsured or underinsured motorist provision. And so we were named for the potential that there would be excess coverage needed. That case is settled without economic impact or to the board or its insured. So that's the update that I have for you tonight.
Perfect. I know under legal report, are you going to make any references to the policies that we have been discussing this? If not, that's fine.
I had not planned on it.
Okay, I just want to clarify one thing, and I was going to do it under your legal report.
Okay.
Is that there is a perception, according to Ben Torres, that I have had the 23-24 budget for quite some time, and I have been holding it hostage. That is incorrect. That is, I received the 23-24 budget, and I think Ms. Diane will verify this. I picked it up Friday morning. That's the copy you ran for me. It was emailed to me April the 18th, and I received it on Friday after I pled with Ms. Diane to run me a hard copy, and indicated that I would look at it over the weekend. We would try to get that moving the first of this week, and then there arose some questions. I just wanted, I got it the same day that the remainder of this board received the 23-24 budget proposal. And I just wanted that shared, because that perception was just untrue. So however that information got out there, my personal integrity would not allow me to hold any document hostage, and that was the word that was used to me. So I wanted to clarify that while we had all board members present, and to clarify that I got it the same day that you did.
I don't think I've received a copy of it.
It's
One that I can-
it's in the email.
Not one that I can open. I can't open.
Now that, I couldn't open mine either, so that's why
I
I
cannot
told Miss
open
Diane and said,
docs, so.
please, but I'm technically challenged.
Did it not open in Google Docs for you?
Nope, it does not open on my computer at home.
So, but I received it just in hard copy form where y'all received it in an email on the same date. So as long as that is cleared up, I can feel comfortable that my integrity has not been questioned, because I would absolutely never, ever do that to this board or to this district. So I'll move on now. Next on the agenda is the Junior Reserve Officer Training Course.
So this one here, the commander is listed in your agenda. That's Mr. Harry Dawson. He's the commander over the 7th Brigade of the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps out of Fort Knox. I visited with him last Friday. He actually came and did a site visit. I've been speaking with him back and forth for many months. As most of you know, one of my goals was to get JROTC back into the schools.
Yes.
So he has worked with me and sat down, showed me all the requirements. We have to get on what's called an Order of Merit list, an OML. So what we have to do is send in a couple of letters, one for each of the high schools, or if we want to do 3. And then also have some government paperwork we have to fill out, Form 3168, I believe it is. And what I'm asking tonight, and it looks pretty positive. So there's two options here once we get on that Order of Merit list. We can qualify, they score our Order of Merit. They have points for different things. So like if you're a Title I school, you get so many points, or if you're different things get different points. So we want to maximize the points on that. If we get up on the OML list high enough to where they'll recognize our schools as the next one in line to get a ROTC program, then what they'll do is they'll supply everything, all the uniforms. They have some drone programs. You know, they have a ranger group. They have all kinds of different groups that are options in ROTC, and they'll fund all of that, and they fund half of the salary of those instructors. So if you get a corps up to 150 students, then it's 2 instructors, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of guidelines to it. There's also, so that's one way, let's get on the OML list. There's another way that if we get approved for the National Defense Cadet Corps, we would fully fund the person, but they would supply everything, is how I understood it. So we'd actually just be providing the salary for a person at each school, and they will fund the supplies and all the other things we need. We do have facilities for it, so we have to show that. We also have the outdoor facilities for it, and we obviously have the community interest, I think, across the whole community to have these programs back at the high schools. So what I asked Ms. Boston to add this to vote on is for y'all to vote on for me to proceed to get on the OML list and go ahead, if we get accepted, be able to add those programs to our high schools.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, we've had a JROTC program in our school, I think as far back as 2008, and then it was closed down because the salary range for the 2 military officers who became the teachers exceeded the teacher's salary, and even then, I think when we paid half of it, it was like paying more than what normal teachers were getting. I have no doubt that the program is valuable. I just want to know what, will we have a stopping point to evaluate the salaries, even though that we're being provided with uniforms and other paraphernalia that goes along with the program, whether or not we will be able to evaluate the salary situation and determine whether or not we can afford that or not? Will there be a stopping point to evaluate that?
Yeah, I can get all that information. We can present it at the next board meeting if you
Okay.
prefer. Or I can just email it out to you and then we can talk about it at the board meeting, however you'd like that.
Well, I think, let's see,
Both.
I think we need to, I don't know what the appropriate Robert Rules of Order situation would be. For instance, if their salaries are their last salaries as a commanding general in the armed forces were $160,000 or $155,000, then we'll be paying, $60,000, $70,000 plus all the insurance and other benefits. So I think we need somehow, I think I'd like to be able to discuss that at the next board meeting or at a budget meeting, be brought before the budget committee and then presented to the board.
Well, we are, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. King, but the motion is to allow we're not approving the program.
No.
We're allowing Mr.
Investigation.
Stepp to move forward and
Thank you.
investigate this
In that
program.
case, my discussion is over. and
Well, that
I'm
was
ready to
very,
vote.
very good information. Am I correct that that is your motion? Just to allow him to proceed?
To pay them.
Okay.
Yeah, we had enough payment over the teachers.
Any further discussion? So the motion is that we are giving Mr. Stepp permission to pursue the JROTC and see what needs to be done and what is required to be done to bring it back to this county. Now, is that what everybody believes?
Yes.
Okay, you need further discussion.
Part of that process is I will get us on the OML list for selection, so.
Once you're on the list, then do we discuss the cost?
Yeah, well, I can find out the cost. It depends on who applies for the job and all those variables. Like you said, it could be a general, it could be a first sergeant. Those are two vastly different paid positions in the military.
Well, I think
One other point, that's a 260-day position. So it's year-round, not just 200 days.
so it's a 260 position?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so they're getting paid more months, and that's why the salary was so much higher.
One more question.
We'll find all
Like I
that.
said, I have no problems with the JROTC program.
Yeah.
I think that kind of structure is wonderful. We
the
just
salary.
need a little analysis of the salaries and see whether we can afford it.
Absolutely.
But we are given permission for him to move on and add us to the OML list.
Mr. Davis?
Call for the question?
Yep, question, who would those people report to? Or who would be
There
responsible
are
for?
employees.
Okay, so there'd be same hiring process.
Certified, non-certified positions?
They
Or
would work to
classified
get-
position?
They would work to get either that occupational license or the teacher certification. Mr. King might know better than I.
Yeah, there's a JROTC license, so they get that, their license.
To teach, yes, sir.
They would be responsible for obtaining that license? Or
Yes.
is that something that we would?
No, they
Like
would,
any other teacher, but there is a license for that.
Okay. Once we get on the order of merit list, what does that mean?
so that's a selection process, so it could be 1 to 100. And if we don't have as many points of like a Title I school, then we could be at 18. But if these other 17 schools are on that list and ready to go and they're offered a program, they turn it down, they keep bumping until they get there. So what happened last year, the 19th school on that list actually got it because so many schools turned it down before they got to it. And the only difference between going through that process and the other process is is the OML, when we get chosen through that process, they pay half of the salary. If we do it through the NDCC, the National Defense Cadet Corps, I believe I'm correct, then we would be paying the full salary. That's the only difference. Everything else, they supply everything, they do all the above. So it's a very valuable program, invaluable to our students growing up, I believe. For the ones that fit into that, it's not for everybody, obviously, but neither is aviation. So.
Well, it's rounding out some of the CTE.
So currently, out of the 16 clusters, we have 15 of those in this county. We're very CTE rich, have been that way for a long time, which is great. You saw several CTE kids here tonight. So this will round it out to where we provide 16 of the 16 clusters that the state of Tennessee promotes for career and technical education.
Would you mind speaking a little bit to the educational impact and opportunities that be presented
Absolutely.
beyond just obviously the initial program itself?
So ROTC, I've had a ROTC program in the school I was at for the whole time I was there. It is a huge leadership program. Teaches a lot of discipline, pride, character, integrity. It goes through the whole process of developing young leaders, but it goes through it the military way. A classroom, that classroom's a company, and there's a company commander, and then there's a brigade commander, and then there's and then the whole process of enlisted cadets. And everybody has a leadership role, and you earn your way up by taking more responsibility. And that can lead into any profession in this world. It's just massive. So there's all kinds of different programs. They have Ranger teams, and they compete through physical fitness and obstacle courses. They have rifle teams. They now have drone teams. And so what they're doing in these ROTC programs, they're creating pathways that lead into the jobs, the MOSs in Army.
Right.
So it's just, and it's not a recruiting program. If you're in ROTC, you don't have to go in the military. But it has had a huge impact on, I had about 100 cadets out of a 900-person school. So it was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was an amazing program for us, the school I was at. And I'm sure other educators can probably tell you the same, coming from different areas where they have these programs.
Clark Grange has an incredible program. I've been there
So
a
our
few times
local
to see that in action.
MOAA,
It's
Military
amazing.
Officer Association, supports all of them in the Upper Cumberland. So we got that support, 5 programs. So we have that support already. We got the Veteran Foreign Wars support. I've got several county commissioners supporting it, Rotaries. I mean, I've mentioned it everywhere I've been, and everybody is like, are you really going to be able to do that? So I'm going to try. I don't take no very well, so hopefully we'll get it rolling. But there's 2 options. If we don't get on the OML list, I would probably come to the board to vote to do the NDCC program, or we maybe add 1 position at each of the schools and start the program.
Yeah, Mr. Stepp, let me also clarify or add on to my comment about one of the reasons why the program was not refunded for JROTC. The student enrollment had declined, about 12 to 13 students. So with that low enrollment, it couldn't cost justify itself. Okay? But the program itself was phenomenal.
Yes, sir.
My son was in it whenever we had it in Cumberland County for the 2 years, and he enjoyed it and learned so much from it.
Awesome.
And I thought there was more in it than just 14 or so, because when I went to those things, there was a lot of young men and young women.
Yeah,
I
a
had
lot of women.
students that joined the program, and it was a great program. I was sad that it was not offered anymore in Cumberland County.
They also offer millions of dollars in scholarships. So there's
Yes.
a lot of benefit through scholarships for several different things, not just JROCT.
And Anita, with that low enrollment, you've got to remember that we've got Billy Stepp here to provide leadership. And I bet you anything that enroll program will enroll with high students.
It's good.
Colonel Wetzel didn't do such a bad job, nor
Yeah.
Colonel Philpo.
Just saying selfishly, now in this state, we've got a bill that fast tracks veterans through their teaching certificate. So send them off to the military, let them get their education, do their part, and then we can fast track them in as a teacher.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Okay, so The motion on the floor and second is that we allow Mr. Stepp to move forward with the JROTC program and see what is involved in bringing it back to this county. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. And next on the agenda is the Excel Energy Group presentation. Mr. Stepp, if you would.
And Mr. Mark Gregory and his colleague are here to present to you on come on up to the podium here, on energy savings through their company. Now, something unique about Mr. Mark Gregory was he was a school board member in the Williamson County Schools for many years, so he's a local resident now here in Cumberland County, though.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, I spent 12 years on the Williamson County School Board, but I'm happy to be here in Cumberland County now, and Mr. Sappy, you are my representative, as I live about a mile from here. So. But I've always heard that an expert is considered to be someone at least 100 miles away, so that's why Colton Churchill's here from Excel in Arkansas. So if y'all need to hear from an expert, we'll have Colton come up here and talk. Excel Energy Group is a LED lighting upgrade company. We've been in business for 30 years, and we've worked with over 2,000 school districts doing lighting upgrades. Y'all's meeting's moving along at a pretty good clip, so I won't go through all 2,000. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
However, I would like to look at a couple of them. Let's go to, you guys have all of this presentation, it's 20 pages on your thumb drives or laptops or however you have that, so you can go through it and just read it ad nauseum. We did Putnam County Schools about 5 or 6 years ago, and Jerry Boyd was the superintendent there. After we did that project, about 2 years after that, Jerry ended up at Washington County. And one of the first things he did when he got to Washington County, he called me and he said, "Mark, are you still doing lights?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "We need them here." So he did them at Putnam County, and also Mr. Stepp was a principal in Putnam County when we did that project. So he did them in Putnam County, went to Washington County, and the first thing he did was upgrade his lights with us when he got there, because the program works. And why we're here tonight is not to present your project to you, but rather to get, I guess, your approval for us to do an audit to show you how much you guys would save if you upgraded your lights. And that's a process that takes 1 or 2 days, and it's no cost, no obligation. Then we would come to you at a subsequent board meeting and show you, here's your proposal, here's how much you would save. Timing could not be better to do this project in Tennessee. You have the EESI will fund it at 0.5%. TVA has rebates for interior and exterior lights. Both of those organizations would review the project before we were able to even, present it to you guys. So you'll have outside sets of eyes looking at it to make sure our numbers are verified and are what we say they are. But our projects all are guaranteed to pay for themselves in writing. And your payback will be, anywhere from 4.5 to 6.5 years, somewhere in that range. So that's what we're asking. We're just really asking for your nod of approval to let us do an audit. And like I said, we could do it probably the second week of May, take a day, day and a half, and then come back and come to your committee meetings or however y'all want to do it and show you, because you can't make a good decision on something without good information. And that's what the audit will give you.
I'd like to move that we accept their proposal to perform an audit.
We didn't amend the agenda to include a vote on that.
Well, this is a free audit, so I can just proceed. This is really for y'all's information, just so that you're aware that he'll come back.
Okay.
And then I believe it would be the voting time.
Yes.
So this is for your information. It's a free audit.
Oh, got it.
It's nothing really to vote on
Okay.
unless he comes back and presents, and then you want to vote to accept or whatever.
Right, as long as you, you have the authority to move forward, so.
Right, it's free, so
You don't
there's no cost
need
to
us.
it.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet everybody, though.
Right now.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How has, in the past 15 years, we had a full lighting audit, maybe 15 years ago?
Yes, sir.
How has the lighting systems changed since 15 years? Now, remember, 15 years, about 2008 to 2012.
It's changed dramatically. It really has. Everything that we do now is LED lights. So all of your lights, interior and exterior, would be converted to LED lights. So your wall packs on the outside of the buildings, the parking lot lights, canopy lights outside, all of those. And of course, all of the interior lights.
And I will say LED does save on the,
Yeah.
They do, they save a lot.
we have converted a lot at our home to LED.
You asked how much they've evolved over 15 years. I'll give you a very specific example. So that fixture is going to burn about 118 watts. What we would put there would be 30 watts. So extrapolate that across the whole district, and you're
Big
talking about
savings.
very significant amounts of savings.
And it's improved lighting. And there's something the expert from 100 miles away. How about that?
And the lighting's good for the brain, right?
That's correct. There's numerous
It
papers
really
written
is.
on the benefits of LED lighting, especially compared to what you've got the fluorescent lighting. It's much better for learning environments for a number of reasons.
I saved a fortune when I did the pregnancy center, because when I went in, it had all this kind of stuff, and I took it all out and did LED, and our utility bill dropped. It was unbelievable. They couldn't believe it. Made a huge difference.
It's nice. And the way we'll do the project, you'll hopefully see a positive cash flow to your operating budget, not just we guarantee you'll cover the payment for the EESI, but there'll be extra money in there in the operating budget. So it's really a nice program.
Thank you. I'm glad you came.
We appreciate that.
Very much. so.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Stafford, when you run next time, you gotta knock on my door.
Oh,
I promise you.
All right, I'll be looking for it.
If I don't run, you can.
His slogan would be experience.
I was serious.
I'm sure.
You didn't think you
I'm sure. Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Next on our agenda is our director's report.
So on 17A, this is the appeal from the DHA.
Okay. This is one that we have to cast a vote on. A student has issued an appeal from the DHA and from Mr. Stepp to the board. We would be approving, what we are doing is voting on whether to hear the appeal or whether to not hear the appeal. Am I correct?
And I hold the DHA decision.
I can expound a little bit. It may help, just to kind of review, what the law says is that the board is to review the record of the matter, which I think the board has done.
We all have.
And so after the board reviews the record, the board has to choose between either A, denying a board hearing, and in that event, the board can choose but is not required to affirm the decision of the DHA, overturn the decision of the DHA, or modify the decision of the DHA to a lesser punishment. Or the board can grant a hearing, and if that's the case, there's a series of things that you have to do.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion on, yes, mister?
I move to deny the hearing.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. So we have a motion to deny the hearing and a second. Any discussion?
I think it's clear from what we looked at, every step has been followed correctly.
Okay,
Mr. Stepp's done his job.
okay.
I concur.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we have denied an appeal from the student from the DHA decision.
Do we need to make a motion to uphold the DHA?
Earl, do we have to make a motion to uphold, or do we just deny?
No.
Once we deny the
A
hearing?
denial is sufficient. The board doesn't have to say anything else.
Okay, thank
You don't
you.
have to affirm the DHA's position.
No, sir.
Okay.
So next on the agenda is the math textbook adoption approval. The board has to approve it. This was a long process. There's a board policy that describes the committee that we have to use. It was a committee of teachers. They spent several sessions in reviewing all the approved materials for TDOE, and they voted, and this is what each grade band voted as our new math textbook for moving forward.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the math textbook.
I'll make a motion to adopt the math textbook.
Okay. So we have a first and a second to adopt the math textbook that they have reviewed. A little history is I actually sat on the math standards board creating this math textbook. And I've never been so confused in my life. I'm just telling you. If it had not been for
This
Kim
is someone
Herring,
else's job.
I would not have known. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion carries.
So next is a request to apply and participate in federal grants. So if you look at this, these are several of the federal grants that Dr. Wittenberger is working on. The last two are competitive, so what we're asking here is for a motion to move forward and if awarded, to be able to accept the grants.
Do we have ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 are on here.
Yeah, so ESSER 2 is sunsetting, as we know, but we'll still have some liquidation we'll be doing in July. So we have to approve that to happen. And then ESSER 3, obviously, auditorium, we got tutors and several other things. And the COPS grant, that's a competitive grant, a matching grant, and then Stronger Connections grant. And those two are competitive.
This is.
The rest, we work on every year.
Right. This is just participating, and if we are
Applying, yeah.
awarded to
Yes,
accept
ma'am.
the award.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're doing it in one fell swoop.
If that's okay with the board, yes.
I'll make a motion that we vote to participate, and should we be granted these grants, should be awarded these grants, that we accept them and comply with what we need to.
I will second.
Did everybody understand that motion? I'm not even sure I understood that motion.
I think I followed you.
I just want to get it in all one fell swoop. So, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Next is a equipment bid for the nutrition program that Ms. Hamby's turned in for you to vote on.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve the CCSNP equipment bid. Any discussion? Not?
I think this is just regular things that we usually do, isn't it, Ms. Hamby? Just
It's
all
equipment.
the equipment.
Yes. When you submit a bid, you give us a lot to read.
Yes.
Trust me on that one. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next is a food service annual bid. This is each year.
This is where you bid out the food, right?
Yes, it is.
You just have to, if it's so much, you have to competitively bid it, right?
Yes, anything over $25,000.
Okay. This is a whole lot of chicken chunks, folks.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a, Mr. Safety, a second. Anita, I'll give you the next one.
That's fine.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Next is the Innovative School Model Grant Overview. It's hard to read because it's out of E-Plan and we couldn't print it out of E-Plan. So electronically, we ran into some issues. But basically what this does is overview all the things that Innovative School Model Grant will be covering, whether it's personnel, equipment, middle school programming. So this Innovative School Model Grant had a lot of things required of it. So you're expanding or implementing high-quality CTE programming, addressing skills gaps between regional industry needs and the skill level of students, expanding early post-secondary opportunities for students, and so on and so on. There was several credentials that Dr. Eldridge did a great job of creating a plan to match our needs here in Cumberland County. And something to note on the positions here, I had a good question earlier from Mr. Davis on the positions. Dr. Eldridge has put positions in. There's going to be several new positions, and you'll see that in there. But they generate more TISA money. So the first year, it's 100% funded by the ISM grant. And then each year it graduates down until the fourth year, it's our expense. But by then, the programming we set up so that we're actually getting paid for it by TISA. So it would be more money from TISA. It won't be us having to pull from that current budget. It's going to add money each year.
So it'll be sustainable.
Oh, yes, sustainable through the TISA formula, absolutely.
We might even make some money.
I think the way we've had the CTE has been set up in this county, like I said earlier, we're CTE rich. We have some awesome teachers in that area. We're going to maximize that funding, so it's exciting. And I know the county commissioners, we got some visits set up for them to both schools here in May. One day I have to change because it's a conflict with their budget committee, but we'll get that fixed. So
What is the amount, and you'll have to-
6.2 million is the total. So it's 1 million for Cumberland County High School, 1 million for Stone Memorial, 500,000 for all the elementary schools except Pineview. And Pineview is 250, I believe. Is that correct?
200.
200. So I was close.
Have we received this grant, or is this just permission to
It's already been
participate?
approved. E-Plan, TDOE has already approved this grant, and we will be getting this money. There'll be a budget amendment later on where we have to budget that money that we are getting. So
I'll
that'll
make a
be the
motion.
minute.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? You had me at 6.2. You should have just let off with that. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Not a word.
Do we need to vote?
Huh?
A roll call because it's money?
Well, we didn't do the federal. This is just accepting the grant. Now, if it comes back and we have to, I guess, do you want me to do a roll call?
I think it clears it up. There's no question.
Okay, let's do a roll call on this. This is the motion on the Innovative School Model Overview, grant money, 6.2 million. Ms. Stoll? Yes. Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And Board Chair votes yes. Okay.
Next is a job description for a person who will only be doing work-based learning, and it will be supporting not only the Industry 4.0 coordinator, well, that is what it's going to be doing, and that is a new diploma program that a student can choose when they're a sophomore in high school if they plan on going the industry route. So we can work on the flexibility of the classes and courses they take. And also work-based learning, you're allowed to have 3 credits your junior year, 3 credits your senior year. So this supports that. Now currently, we have work-based learning coordinators at each school, but it's usually somebody that already has a teaching load and they'll do 1 period here or 2 periods of students. With the direction we're going with the career framework that the board has adopted, we want to go from 100 to 600 or whatever number we can get in that area. So that would be too much for any number over what we're currently doing now. We'll have to have a full-time coordinator for this.
Is this covered by the Innovative School Model Overview?
Yes, these are all.
Okay, so that's the declining salary.
Correct. So
First
we
year.
get TISA money for work-based learning. So the more students in work-based learning, the more money we get. All these are based on that funding structure.
And this is a new position.
Yes, ma'am, it will be.
Move to approve.
Okay, Mr. King moved to approve.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
So the next job description is also new, but it is going to support the CTE programs and our career exploration that we're pushing down into the middle schools. So they will be working, basically our human services person, which is usually family and consumer science or different courses like that, would work half providing that CT program in the school, and then the other half would be taking care of 6th through 8th grade career exploration. The goal is to match what we've been talking about when they become a sophomore or a freshman in high school. They're already, I might go that industry path, or I want to be in this CTE program. We've already prepped them so that they're ready their junior and senior year to go and work either internships, work-based learning, or practicums. And this would be at every middle school, every elementary school.
Would this position have to be certified? Teacher has to be,
It will be, we're matching them up with CTE teachers.
okay,
So like the family and consumer science teacher who's already certified works half of that or part of the day doing that, the other part of the day supporting the career coaching side. So we're really trying to beef up that education of the child before they get to high school and start working on career technical education or college pathway if they go that way.
And this is also a new job description.
Yes, that's why.
That's
it's here.
covered under the innovative school model.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
and they would be in all of the elementary schools, what we consider elementary schools? This coach would be?
Yes,
Teacher / coach,
for half of their time.
half a day.
The other half, they'll teach a CTE course. All of that generates money from the TISA. So in 4 years, the goal on all these positions is to be fully funded by TISA.
Madam Chair, move
Yes,
to
sir.
approve.
Okay, we have a
Second.
motion to approve the CTE middle school career coach job description. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
So the next is a grant through special education that we do.
How much is this?
$15,210.
Okay, just checking.
Yes, ma'am?
This is just the request to participate?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
if we're awarded, accept?
Yes, in the program. So once we get it, we'll get that money. But it'll still be a budget amendment when the money comes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the BBLC grant participation,
Second.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, motion carries.
The next one is also a special education grant. It's to get adult changing tables for Martin Elementary. And it's for $5,000.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second to approve the DIDD grant participation and award. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you, motion carries.
So the next is the stockpile days that Ms. Timpson was talking about earlier. Some school systems use it, some don't. We don't have to accept this, but we could use it in a lot of areas. So some of the other areas not listed there would be the new math textbook. Ms. Hamby said she definitely could use it with her people, also transportation. So stockpile days can only be used if you have snow days left over. So let's say we hit 13 snow days, we can't use it. So it's really unpredictable. Different counties use them different ways. I know I was talking with the director in Warren County, and what they've done is they actually use one stockpile day. He applied for it already for next year. They use one stockpile day on the parent-teacher conference day. So they do professional development till noon, and then the parent-teacher conference is 12 to 6. And it's because they have a lot of factory workers. So first shift can go, second shift can go, and third shift can go.
Oh, that's
So
good.
that was a need in their community. So they use two of them for that during the school year, and it's built into the calendar. Other school systems I really didn't know this process until the study council. I have a director's study council, about 15 Upper Cumberland directors, and they were all talking about it and how they're going to use it for professional development and with all their employees. So if it's teacher assistants, there'll be professional development for that at the school or countywide. You can vary this in, and it's flexible, and I am going to ask the State Department your question to see, you know, I'll make it work if the teachers, I know I've had several principals say our building's good with it.
Yeah.
You know, I've had several principals say that. There has been, I've gotten one email with concerns listed, and they were legitimate concerns. There is some of this you have to be flexible to do, and parents will, but I think a month out, it might be enough for them to make plans, but, you know, there's a lot to consider when we do this, but I can't change the calendar, the board can only vote on that, so I got the option, but I haven't instituted it yet.
So can you still ask for that to be for like the 12th and the 19th instead of?
I'm gonna ask them.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'd sure hate to have somebody have to reschedule a whole field trip. That would be.
Well, typically when this happens this way, that happens.
Can we make a motion
Let's
before
go
we get into
ahead.
the
Oh, sorry.
discussion, since this is a voting item?
That's okay. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 2 development days and ask in that motion that Mr. Stepp question as to whether we can coordinate the days around plans, you know, like honors banquets and things of that nature. If the state approves that, then Mr. Stepp and his staff would have the authority to go ahead and plan those.
Then I will second that.
Now, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
And just from the discussion part, echoing what Ms. Timpson said, I had contact from a few teachers that were
Me too.
thankful for the
Yes.
opportunity, but concerned about the timing of it.
Yeah.
Because of these things that are already scheduled, that are difficult to be moved. So, yeah, I mean, if we could, I think you said June 12th and June 19th, or May 12th and May 19th look like good days, so if that's something we can
We need to
consider.
make sure of anything that might be scheduled on those days, because I mean, if there's finals, if there's anything else that's scheduled on, we really need to look at the whole picture, because
I think changing the calendar at this date and time is not a good idea. I think that we set the calendar a year ago, and maybe might be something that we can do for next year, because I've had several calls and emails about things that are going on those particular days, and honor programs, reward things that the teachers have promised their students, and big disappointment for students whenever they don't get their reward days, this kind of thing. And I know the teachers have already worked, you know, the days, because they add the 30 minutes in. So I would just.
Definitely give the teachers paid holidays if the state will let me, but they will not let me.
Question. If we ask to modify the days, how long does that process take? And then how long?
They email
will we
pretty quick
reconvene?
back, a day or two. I think some of the looks I'm seeing in principals' faces, there's different challenges at elementary compared to high school also. So I think, Kelly, did you want to,
May
Miss
12th
Smith,
is
sorry.
It's okay. May 12th is Day Perk, and it's been coordinated for 8 months.
yeah, we just got
It's
that.
gonna be large. Like,
Yeah, so
all
May
kids,
12th will not
schools
work.
giving
So-
away a car.
but that's what
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. We need to look at.
Elementary principals, I mean, 23, 24, and I certainly do not want to disrupt honors and field trips but are y'all nodding you like, or you nodding that you don't like?
When it comes to May, there's stuff all over the place. I mean, it's
May
just
is a-
everywhere. And so we knew about this, so we have a contingency plan in place. Everybody's made plans, so we're fine.
Mr. Stepp, can we have a day off for each school?
Mr. Furman, do you concur with that?
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm amenable to adjustments that need to be made if they need to be made. That's,
I think we set the calendar, and we ought to stick to the calendar that we have this year and maybe entertain the idea for the calendar next year in the 23-24 school year.
And I'm good either way. I just wanted to have the option to explore. I know with the new math textbooks, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I know the summer acceleration program, we got a lot of work to get done. We'll get it done without the PD days, but, I mean, I just wanted that option. Let the educators, the
They're nodding their
principals
heads, they
all.
want the
Yeah,
option.
that's what I hate, to remove the option if they want it. If we
They
can
want
find a
it.
date that's feasible this year to give them that option.
I just don't see how that would be possible because we
Yeah,
just-
because they want it, yeah, they want it, they're all nodding their
About
heads.
4
they
more
want
weeks
it.
of school.
I think if we, the motion is if we can work this out, then with the state or
And I'll work with all the
if the
principals
principals
too.
say,
Okay.
you know, this is the best we can do, let's keep this.
Okay.
I visit with the principals in their buildings a lot, and we've talked about this, so
So
a
you-
little bit, not a lot, because it was something I wasn't aware of until, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity because of me not being aware, so that's why I applied for it.
And then to Anita's point, next year, you know,
Perhaps we should
can't
take a
plan, we
survey.
can't plan ahead that we're gonna have it, because we could use the days. But we could allocate a couple days that if we have days left,
In May.
then those would be the days going into next year.
Next year's calendar is already set as well.
Yeah.
Well, the board could put optional stockpile days on there now, so they can plan ahead that if we have snow days left, those 2 stockpile days, everybody's like, we didn't put programs on that, we didn't.
Okay, so we kinda already do that, is what you're saying.
You can. It's
Yeah,
just,
that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we were to seek additional days or come up with days internally that works for everybody, and they were approve them in 2 days' time, then we would have to reconvene as a board. We would have to, we would
He
just
would have
say,
the permission to
We're
do it.
approving it
Giving
tonight.
him the authority to work it out with the state. Because you don't want us involved in setting dates.
true, that's what,
No, no.
If because of climate change, there were like 8 days not used, would we have 8
not
new
involved with the date right now.
off days?
Well, when we
I have to research that, sir.
When we did this in 1993, we said we would put 30 minutes extra to the school day, and we chose as a county to do 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. And we understood that if we didn't use the days, we lost them.
Yeah.
That means we had to go to school no matter what.
Yeah.
So, and now we're at the end of the school year, and we're changing the game plan.
Is this
They don't
additional pay?
No, it's not additional pay, to my
So
understanding.
would you think that next year, if there are days over and we plan these days, that it would be acceptable?
And I want to know about the bus drivers and the custodians and the assistants.
They all would work in their department for professional
And on a
development.
snow day, they don't have to work.
Correct. But the law ties our hands on this, so they're gonna be at work already. We just thought
Use it
the students
productively.
weren't there, the adults could train and
Yeah.
work on
And they
some
want it.
other things for next year. But like I
saying
said,
yes.
I'm not married to it. I just wanted the option and float it out.
Teresa, can we revisit the motion that you made so everybody's clear on that motion?
Yes.
We can,
I made the motion that we approve these 2 stockpile days with Mr. Stepp working with the principals and each schools who already has planned schedules, and check with the state to see if we can change those 2 dates and leave the authority up to him in accordance with how the state responds to him. Does that make sense? Because principals are nodding.
Yes. They want it.
For the ones he
Want
said.
it.
For the ones that are said. We have a plan.
the 23rd and the 24th.
Changed out, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Did I get a second on? I did.
I
get a
did.
second.
Yeah,
You seconded.
seconded.
You haven't even, we just got a plan.
Yeah,
Further
that's how we
discussion.
have a plan.
You don't have a plan.
And the high schools have a plan for mine.
I just would, I would want you to poll the teachers and find out what your teachers would want. And I was getting feedback that they do not want this.
But the teachers don't. The principals do, but some teachers did not want this.
Because of the dates or because they just don't want professional development?
So none of you have had teachers speak up against it? No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I've talked with a couple of teachers about, the negative impact on their schedule as far as what they plan on doing during those days, and that there's no way to reschedule those events.
Exactly.
For the 23rd and 24th, but I haven't heard any feedback regarding them not wanting professional development.
Yeah, no, they were gracious to have this as a concept, just the actual
Or
physical.
spending that
We
time.
just need to change the
Right.
days.
Yeah, which
Well,
we're,
because of the honors banquets, I think we've got a classroom going on a field trip.
Several things
We
going.
have a game plan to work around that.
Some schools have a game plan to work around
Yeah,
it, some do
they have
not.
alternative schedules.
Okay.
So, if we can come up with dates that work, then
Are you not allowed to pick your own dates?
I
Is it
think we
just-
should table it and consider it for next year.
well, we've got motion,
got a
so we're
motion
gonna
and a
vote.
We'll
second.
have to.
You'll have to go.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
I'm gonna do a roll call since we had.
Sure.
Ms. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
No.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
No.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And board chair votes yes. So the motion carries. Now, this is, you will check with the state and coordinate.
I'll directly with the person who
Okay.
does that for Commissioner Swin.
Okay. Okay, moving on, number 17L.
This is just an agreement that we have every year. We're short personnel, so we have to do contracts, or what they call it, agreement services. And then Calvin University, the next one is the same. Just agreements we have.
I'll entertain a motion to,
Do we have to approve these?
I don't think y'all have to.
we don't have to approve them. If we don't, thank you.
It's renewed each year, I think.
Okay.
So, annual planning calendar, so that is for the board. These are our normal every month reports, attendance reports,
For your information.
personnel reports, school news articles. So these are new samples of newsletters, but they go out once a week. Principals are doing awesome with the communication, so I thank you guys for doing a great job. And the calendars.
Okay,
You're doing a great job of keeping those up too, so that's awesome.
thank you. Next on the agenda is school board committees. First on the agenda would be the policy committee. Ms. Hamby?
Thank you. On approval for first and final reading policies, we have 1.106 Code of Ethics, 1.1062 Non-Retaliation, 1.107 Board Member Conflict of Interest, 2.300 State and Federal Aid Eligibility Determination, 2.402 Investment Earnings, 4.209 Alternative Credit Options, 4.501 School Volunteers, 5.115 Assignment Transfer, and 5.602 Staff Time Schedules. Now I will go through these one at a time. I just wanted to get the numbers out there. These, Diane, if you want to pull, some of them had TSBA changes, some had district changes. Sorry, I have misplaced my notes, but I will look at yours. Okay, this first one, which is the 1.106 Code of Ethics. This was the writing in red and all of that was TSBA changes. And then we had, I think, one district recommendation change. This came from policy, so we do not need a second. But if you would like, and it's up to the board, I can go through each one of them and then we can vote on it as a whole, or do you want to vote on each one?
Well, it's the first and final reading on all of these. I'm assuming that everyone has went through their packet and read these policies, so I think we can
Okay, then
group them together.
let's group them together and I won't go through each one. So we don't need a second.
And this is for the first and final reading. So, we have a recommendation coming out of the policy committee, on these particular, policies. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. So you've got one for the second reading.
Yes, policy number 1.809, civility, it was on, second reading. And, this too came from the committee. And there was just a few, wording changes to director of schools and designee. So this also does not need a second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next is our athletic committee, Mr. Davis.
So we've not met in a little while. There's still been a lot of things that have been taking place kind of behind the scenes that are really encouraging. There's a character banquet scheduled in the next week or so with a collaboration from the Crossville Sports Council. They've invited student athletes to be recommended as those of good character to represent their school and their communities. It's a really neat undertaking. They've embarked on hiring Mr. Al Wilson from the University of Tennessee to come in, be a speaker to those in attendance. It's going to be a very, very encouraging moment for those youngsters. I know Mr. Stepp and Mr. Patton have been working on creating some framework for the TMS-AA conversion, which will impact, our middle school athletics. So there's a lot of moving pieces to that. So they're working on that. Internally, the subcommittee that was assembled to support the strategic planning committee, we're scheduled to meet next week, I believe on the 4th, to continue our efforts in building our plan and how we're going to kind of continue to navigate through that strategic plan and give us that framework to help us really make a difference where we haven't in years past. So we'll be looking to have a meeting hopefully next week or the week after as an athletic committee to bring some more of that information to the table.
Thank you. Next is the budget committee meeting. We have not had, as of yet, started our budget meetings. I'm assuming that's coming up fairly quickly. Next is our building and grounds, Mr. Safety.
Yeah, we had a meeting last month, and there is a proposal, a CCHS band tower proposal. This is, I think our band director is here. Would you like to explain to the board what your proposal is all about, just very briefly?
What our proposal is to build an observation platform on the CCHS band practice field for myself and other band staff to be able to have kind of an elevated position to view rehearsals from, so we can fix formations on the field. We've tried very hard to help them sound their best, and this platform will help them look their best in the marching band aspect as well.
I'd just like to add that he provided us with a 12-page diagram of the there it is.
There it is.
Just excellent work. Thank you so very much. So I guess the band boosters are paying for it all.
Yes, sir.
And do we need a motion to approve since it was approved by the Building and Grounds Committee?
I think probably. Very quick motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Nothing to let everybody know, I'll meet with Mr. Johnson if this is approved on that new procedure that Building and Grounds asked me to create for the third-party construction. So we'll be meeting and looking at that procedurally, that process.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Safety Committee, Ms. Hagan.
We're just still working on and looking at some reports that I'm waiting on from the schools. I believe I did task, I want to know what drills we have done in each of the schools. And so still waiting on that. And we're just looking at moving forward. And we have asked that the window film be sent to Budget Committee. So we're just going to move forward, and we're going to continue to work and keep our staff and our students safe, and I will do everything I can to make that happen.
Thank you. Next on is the Contract Committee, and we have had no contracts in which to review to meet. That's kind of a as-needed committee. So next on the agenda is the Chief Financial Officer's report.
At this point, I would note that the board is very concerned about your family and wishes you all the hope and deal with the grievance that you're feeling right now. We are all concerned about it and wish our condolences for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can we throw in the one of the 3 jobs that you're currently doing?
Bless you. Thank you for your diligence, keeping up with all of it while you were away. You're pretty amazing. We appreciate you.
Yes, we do.
Well, things are beginning to wind down, at least in this year. I feel like that we're on track pretty much with everything. Everybody needs to keep in mind that a lot of our revenue has already been collected. We will not get a BEB payment in May. It will be June. Most of the property taxes have been completed, so you need to sort of keep that in mind as far as expenses. Everything in total is online. Now, you're going to see tonight and in the coming couple of months, there'll be some budget amendments to get some cleanup done between some accounts and between the lines on those accounts, but in total, we're in good shape. As far as Budget Committee, I'm ready when you are, Madam Chair. I've done the best I can do, so we might as well
Just dive in.
just dive on in.
That's what I agree. The only thing, I understand that the maintenance budget has changed somewhat.
Right, I took all the projects that were on the bottom that were basically requests from the principals, I removed those.
Could you forward out to the board members a new and improved?
The budget or just that?
The maintenance.
Right. The only thing that I left in there is just the things that are on our schedule that we do every 5 years.
Every 5, okay.
So it hasn't changed, the top part of that.
The top
sheet.
part has not changed, I eliminated
It's
the
the
bottom.
same.
And could you take the bottom off and just email it out to everybody?
Can.
Thank you.
So is there any questions before we get to the budget amendments?
I just have one comment. You know, the chart of accounts that we use, they're pretty complicated. Is there any resource where if I wanted to know exactly what 44530 or 44570 or some of these other very general topics consisted of in terms of real categories, you know, what groups of expenses that they entail?
Well, basically, the titles that you see on this page are the group topic, whether it's pre-K or whether it's fiscal services, human resources. And a lot of the categories within those groups or subcategories, as they call them, are the same. Travel, wages, taxes. They're the same no matter what the category is. Now, there is a uniform chart of accounts that the state puts out that's available, but I don't know that that would help you in any way, but I'll be happy to send that to you.
Well, thank you. We'll consider that later on, okay?
It's just kind of an accounting thing.
I know. And sometimes that's real confusing because when you look at it, there's so many.
Correct. It can be a bit overwhelming, I agree.
Thank you.
And I do apologize, I'll just throw myself under the bus right now. There were 2 budget amendments that came to you very late, but I have been diligently working with our county finance director to make sure that I have all the language in those to their specifications as far as our 2 construction projects. This is not something I do every day, so I had to work with him on it to make sure I had every I dotted and every T crossed. And that was why they were late getting to you.
Better to be correct than to rush.
Correct.
Great.
Amen.
I don't want to get before the county budget committee and them saying, so I work very closely with him. But the first one that you see is just a general budget amendment. Because we have now picked up the South project, GP is going to be responsible for the engineering costs. So I just moved some money around so that we can cover those.
Which,
Which one are you?
121. Give me the
In front
amount
of
on
me.
that.
Our first one.
What did you put up first? Yeah, show them on the screen.
The first one is one year.
The first, okay. Put them in order, so sorry.
Great.
Okay, this will just
Perfect,
move
thank
the
you.
money. This is part of our responsibility for the balance on the auditorium. This was part of that indirect cost. And all I'm doing is moving that funds into the actual budget and then transporting it into construction. Now, we talked about doing this because we're gonna owe, our portion of it's a little bit over 400,000, so this is part of it.
Do you want to take these as one at a time? Or
It
do
doesn't
you
matter
want to take
whatever you
these?
folks would like.
Yes.
Do you want to take these at one at a time?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the budget amendment, and I think this total was $335.
Correct.
Okay, and it involves money, and I'm going to do a roll call vote. Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safety?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And Chair votes yes. So let's get to the next one.
This is basically the same thing. I needed about 47,000 more, so there was some money in the HVAC equipment line for maintenance that I discussed with Mary that we don't think we will have to use between now and the end of the year. Hopefully,
Hopefully.
fingers crossed. But she has some substantial funds left there, so I took it from there. And this will get us to the total that we need in that construction line. Now, this is just for our portion of the auditorium.
Right.
So so far we've moved 335.
Plus 47. And then there was already 45,000 in that construction line that I will use. That was left over from something else that I have no idea what, but it's been sitting there all year. So I'm gonna utilize those funds, and that will give us a total of roughly 427,000.
Right.
Which is our portion of that construction project.
That's for the CCHS.
Correct.
Okay.
Our portion meaning that amount that we didn't have above
ESSER will pay
ESSER.
first.
Yeah.
ESSER will pay first.
Right.
And this will be our responsibility. But we have to go ahead, once they sign that contract, and record this liability. And we have to have the appropriation there in order to do that. And that's what we're doing.
Okay. Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the 47,000? Is that what the amount?
Yes.
Okay, budget amendment? Any further discussion? Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safety?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols? Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And board chair votes yes, so the motion carries.
Now, this was the one I started with because it was on top of my stack. As I said, we are now responsible for the engineering fees that we will encumber for the project at South because it is no longer ESSER. So I had to move some additional funds to the engineering services line in order for us to do that. Now, it may not come to the 100,000 mark, but I just wanted to be certain that we had enough there.
And these were excess funds in those lines as to what
Oh, yes.
you felt they were excess
Oh,
funds?
yeah.
When do we expect the bids to be in for that project?
Well, they're already in. we just gotta wait to go before. I think we got the approval for the CCHS auditorium. We've got to go back for South.
Yeah.
So we rebid South, right?
We'll rebid South, and then we'll go before the county commission next week for CCHS auditorium.
Okay.
Okay. So, moving this over for the engineering services for South, that's a service that we're gonna pay for regardless of whether we choose to move
But they've
forward
already
with the
done
new
their
bid or
part of
not.
the work, correct.
Just
Got it.
confirming.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. That clarified.
They're gonna expect to get paid regardless.
Yes, exactly.
They do their work on the front
Yeah,
end.
but then we own what they have provided to us to use at any time going forward.
Now, do you have a date on that rebid?
Not yet. I have not seen anything from,
Kim said it would take about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But now, I'm not seeing it go out, but I'm not saying he hasn't put it out, but normally
fine.
I get a copy of it.
That's fine. I'll entertain a motion to approve the engineering services resolution.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So we have a motion and a
Pay our
second
debts.
on the 100,000
We owe it.
for the resolution for engineering services. Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safety?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
And Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And board chair votes yes, motion carries.
And this is moving the money from fund balance to the construction line for the South project.
I make the motion we approve.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to move the $2.2 million for the South Cumberland Elementary Building Project resolution. Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safety? Yes, ma'am.
Discussion.
I'm sorry.
Discussion. Right?
Discussion.
We have the motion, discussion. So as not to put the cart before the horse, I wanted to move to postpone the motion until South rebid is received and we have progressed further with the 23-24 budget process.
Well, I don't,
So we
can we
know
do
where we,
that?
so we know where we stand. We don't even know what the rebid's gonna come in at, and we're wanting to approve moving this amount over. We don't even know if it's gonna be this amount.
Well, I would feel better about knowing that it is allocated and it is there. We do not believe that the bid is gonna come in any higher than this, so therefore that locks this in. If for some reason we choose not to cover the bid or not to take the bid, then it just rolls back over to something
Okay.
else. So I'm not gonna remove my motion.
You don't need to. I've made the move on it, so then I guess we have to vote on my move to postpone the motion until South rebid's received and we have progressed further with the 23-24 budget process.
Okay.
So we have more information, what it's gonna cost and what our budget's gonna look like.
Okay, so we are now doing a roll call vote on Ms. Stout's move that we postpone this resolution. Ms. Stoll?
No.
Mr. Safety?
No.
Ms. Nichols?
Can we go back a little bit? Because I'm really confused.
Okay.
So the money, you said the money gets pulled out and put in, but if we don't go forward, then it goes back.
It can go back.
It can't go back.
So if it's already sitting still,
Right.
like it's already sitting still.
How much is left in our fund balance whenever we
That's my
take
next
this
question.
out?
Yeah. And we won't know that.
Oh, okay.
This was, I'm assuming this is part of the 2.4, but you had made the comment at one of the meetings that we were gonna end up the year at how much?
Well, I think it's gonna be around 5 now, about
Okay.
5.4.
Okay.
Is there any legal requirement for us to have a
Yes, we
certain,
have 3%, but we will satisfy that requirement.
we will
we
satisfy that requirement, we won't get in trouble?
Not right now.
Really? Not right now.
So if we move it out now, we're still gonna be
still gonna be
satisfying our requirement and have some buffer there in case we need to pull some more, something
little.
comes up.
A little. I'm more concerned about going into next year with the unknowns of TISA, but at the end of this year, we should be good.
Okay. So, Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Okay. You moved to postpone it.
Oh, no, I'm
You
good
wanna
with
move
it.
forward?
I'm good with it,
Okay.
yeah, I think. What are we? Now I'm confused.
Okay, so my motion was to move to postpone the motion that was made until South rebid is received, and we have progressed further with the 23-24 budget process. So we get the rebid back and see what the cost is before we pull money out and reallocate it for it. And we wait until we get a little further along in the budget planning process so we know what it's gonna look like with TISA next year. So I'm making a movement to postpone the motion to approve.
And so
Now.
what is the benefit, I mean, where do we differ on your motion and her motion? I'm confused.
She made a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay. The money now.
She made a motion, or she moved to postpone it until the
I'm
bid comes
making a
back.
motion to go ahead and move the money, then it allocates it and it's there. She has made the motion to postpone
Don't put the
that
money,
and
don't put
move-
the money in there.
Don't put the
Right.
money in there.
Until we get the rebid, so we know what it's gonna cost, and go a little further into the budget planning process.
So we've not voted on the first motion yet?
We don't have
No,
to,
it's
since
still
she's
confused.
voted to, or
She
made a
moved to
motion to
postpone.
postpone it, and we have a no and a no, and we're waiting on Sherry.
Sherry's still confused.
There's, either way, it will work out. Because either way, the board is going to have to look at the bids and then
Put the money
decide,
in there.
right, whether to go on with the project or not, or whether to fund it, or how much to fund it, depending on what the bids are. So either way, it's going to work out. Shannon's motion is cautionary, saying, why move now because we don't have
The bids.
the bids in
Get
yet.
that.
And Mrs. Hamby's motion is to go ahead and get this over with and just move the money, so when the bids do come in, we don't have that step to have to go through.
This encumbers the funds for that specific project.
Reserves them, right?
Reserves it
them.
for the South
Can't get in
project.
trouble because they're
Or
encumbered.
We have to
Yeah.
Or that word
prove,
too.
I don't know what I'm
this
doing.
just proves that we have adequate appropriation.
No
Don't-
to.
wasn't that
motion.
requested?
Either are voting no to go ahead and hold the funds for this
Encumber.
project, or
Okay.
you're voting yes to hold
And
the
a
funds.
very piece of, a
Yes,
very
is to
vital piece
put
of
them in there.
information.
Right, just to hold them there, but they're allocated for the project, so they
Okay, I'll
can't
vote
be
yes.
used
Let's do
for
yes.
anything else.
So you're gonna postpone it.
See, you're confusing.
Yes is to my movement, that we're gonna wait
And
until we get
no
the bid.
to this.
And
So just put the
no
money in
is
there.
to my movement.
Okay.
And then we go back to the original,
For the love of God.
So we have a no and a no and a no,
Ms. Hamby,
no.
Ms. Hale,
No.
Mr. Davis,
No.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Stout,
Yes.
and chair votes no. So the move fails. We're going back to the motion to go ahead and move these funds. And Kim, we have to show that we have the money.
Adequate appropriation.
Okay, so we
That
have
way we have
adequate
it in the line.
appropriation in the line.
And the money is that.
Okay, so the motion that we are currently bidding on is to approve this resolution. We have a first and a second. Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
No.
And Ms. Stout?
no.
And chair votes yes, so the resolution passes.
And Sherry, I do not want you to feel bad about that being confusing. It
Oh,
gets
no, I have to
so,
start asking questions now because I'm not gonna be
it's very confusing.
lost.
No, it's good that we go back and ask questions. Everybody
Yes.
needs to be clear, so they're casting the appropriate.
Yes,
ma'am.
absolutely.
Amen.
Okay.
This next one is a grant for North Kids Club. We got the exact same grant last year. This just allows that program to purchase things that benefit that program. 2 of our employees, it's part of the grant, they get a bonus, and then the rest is used on things for that particular program. They bought playground equipment and a lot of new things for the program there in North. This is the after-school program.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the North Kids Club grant resolution for 57,095.58. Any discussion? Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
And Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And chair votes yes, motion carries.
I believe the next one is a general budget cleanup from the special education department. Some of it's budget cleanup, and then Cassie wrote me a note that said this allowed them to purchase for the CDC department at Martin a washing machine.
Okay, so this is a 141. Okay.
Move to approve?
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion to approve and a second on the resolution for 14,574.10. Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Okay, and board chair votes yes, motion carries.
This is the one we've all been waiting for. This is our innovative school models grant for $6.2 million.
I made a motion we approve.
Now, we do that one quick.
Yes. That's
Okay,
just.
so
Second.
So we have a first and a second on the innovative school grant models grant for 6.2. Any discussion? Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols? Ms.
Yes.
Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Board chair votes yes, and motion carries.
Cool.
I believe the next two are also from the special education department, but they're both from her federal budget, and the note she gave me was just basic budget cleanup.
Okay, these,
So that's the
That's at 142-901-71200, that's federal sped.
Okay.
those were, I guess they were added on, they're not on my.
They should have been
No,
in
they
the
were on the
original.
original.
It's 19D on your agenda.
19D.
There's four, those are all already approved by the
Okay,
State
never
Department.
And there's
mind,
four?
I'm sorry.
No, there's, yeah,
1, 2, 3,
There's
4,
four of
5,
them,
6,
right?
7, 8.
There's actually 8 of them.
I've got
but
8.
they've all
Is-
been approved by the State Department.
they've
Is
all
there
been
any way
approved.
that we could group these together and?
They've all been approved in E-plan, so I mean, it's just kind
Madam
of.
Chair, move to group these together and approve.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to, they're all 142 resolution, and they belong to the federal
Programs,
programs.
it's sped and just regular federal programs.
Any discussion? Ms. Stoll?
Yes.
Mr. Safdie?
Yes.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And board chair votes yes, motion carries.
The only other thing I had, I completely skipped over the sales tax report. We're still running ahead for the year. I hope it holds because those extra funds should come to us. But we're still running $200,000 ahead. So buy local.
Buy local, amen. That's good.
Have you talked to anybody about, why there's a sales tax, we
Well,
have Buc-ee's and
They tried to, they did, this was an estimate, and this was their best estimate when they did this budget at the courthouse. And basically, at that point, when he was doing this, Buc-ee's wasn't there yet, they knew it was coming, Chick-fil-A wasn't there yet. He was just doing his best guess estimate, because it's totally new, and they really didn't know what to anticipate.
Yeah,
He's done pretty good,
yeah,
trying to guess a year out.
yeah. That's
yeah,
good.
you're right.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
that's pretty good guess.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
No, ma'am, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bride.
Next on your agenda is your consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second on the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next would be any old business to discuss, questions?
I have some old business. I was looking at, the strategic plan, and I just wanted to compliment the director of schools for following up with this procedure and talk a little bit about, the concept of team on the Board of Education. And whether we're in the board or outside of a meeting. Our official capacity is only when we are meeting in an approved meeting, okay? And sometimes we have to act independently. But to act independently doesn't mean we're not part of a team. So in my personal references to how I perceive this board is whether I do things with you or not, okay? Whether I attend a larger meeting or a smaller meeting, I am still part of the team of the Board of Education. And I hope that you all feel that way too, because everyone has different schedules, everybody knows their responsibilities, and sometimes it's very hard when you realize that in some cases you're an island unto itself, because the official capacity of us is here at this particular moment or at a called meeting. So I can relate, and I'm sorry to take so long, but I can relate my own story about learning about the budget. I asked Mrs. Bray about the lines, the chart of accounts, because it took me about a year to go over each chart of account, a number, and then learn what they represented. Of course, in 1 year and out 1 year, but it took me a year. And then it took me 2 years during my board, first residence as a board member, to ferret out and understand what was taking place. The idea is that there was a work session on the budget. I attended that. I attended and worked with the director of schools almost on a weekly basis to learn about the budget. And I was constantly on the phone with TSBA, learning about the budget. And it was enough to get me through. But if I had just to rely on a single meeting to learn about the budget, it would not have happened for me. But it took 2 years for me to do that.
Question for you.
Yes.
Do you feel that if we were to meet with more frequency on specific matters as a group as opposed to committees, that'd be beneficial?
It just depends on what, for instance, in talking about the budget, there's a process that's taking place, and it's always rushed at this time. We've got exactly 1 month and 1 week, perhaps, or 2 weeks to discuss the budget, okay? But that process will be explained as the full budget. I think you all got copies of the budget, right? And we're talking about a budget right now, and budget committees are catching up with what it all means. I think that, we'll have time to do that. I leave it up to the chairperson to arrange the meeting dates with the director of schools. And that's what has to happen, because that's part of our policy, all right? And unless the policy is changed, those things will take place, and it'll be rushed. It always is. I mean, I've been on the board 15 years, and it's always been rushed because we don't get a final budget until May 17th. We don't know what the budget is, even though there is a proposal now. Okay, there's a proposed budget, right, that the director of schools has created and gave to us today. That proposal has not been reviewed, but we're talking about team work. So if you need more activity to become part of a team, to feel you're part of a team, then you need to work. We need to work together with the chairperson to arrange those meetings. Okay. But whether I am able to attend those meetings because of personal conflicts, because it doesn't mean I'm not part of the team. Okay? I'm always a member of the Cumberland County Board of Education. And I know you probably feel that way too. So that's,
Transparency and inclusivity is very important, and we all committed to that at the beginning of the year.
right,
So,
and I fully understand. And I just wanted to relate and give you a perspective on my first years. 2 years to understand the budget. I was constant. I was chairman 1 year, and then the next year I was vice chairman. And it just took me all that time to continue to do research on it.
Yeah.
And this year it's even more complicated, and I'm just glad that we have Mr. Stick there
Yes.
looking at TISA and how it's unfolding. And I'm glad we have a chairperson who's been, staying on top of what needs to be done.
What deadlines do we have right now? Like pressing, like this has to be done by X date?
We don't. We don't. We do need to get, the county commission will give us a date to present as long as we have our budget approved by the day before, which is what we did last year, which was June the 8th. We presented. And as long as we have an approved budget by that, in reviewing back years, we've been as late as June the 15th in presenting the board.
And I've seen the budget
Presenting our
turn in
budget.
as late as the last day in June, because we turned in the budget and then the county commission, the finance committee, said they needed more information.
Yeah, and they could send it back, and they did last year.
And that's the reason I ask, is trying to, in the spirit of building a strategic plan, being a new board member, aspiring to be a teammate, being able to plan for a date and time where all the information is available for all of us to review with enough time to prepare, so we're not
But you have all the information.
crammed. Well, right, but I don't have the platform to have open conversation with each of you other than individually.
or
in a board meeting.
I mean, Ms. Bray, are you available?
Always.
Ms. Bray's always available. You're
Ms.
welcome
Bray.
to sit down with her
No,
until we get to that point.
You know,
Then we
it's been difficult,
We would look.
and again, I'm not trying to
And committee
bring
meetings
up
will be same.
Right.
sorrow, but the past 3 and 4 weeks, your Mrs. Bray has been going through a tragedy
Yes.
in her life right now.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes that communication isn't available, although she stayed in touch, okay? But I'm just saying that,
What did our budget schedule say we were gonna do?
Yeah.
right.
What did it say?
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robbie.
If I can piggyback on that just really quick, most certainly, and out of respect for Ms. Bray working 3 positions right now and everything else that she has going on, trying to combine some sort of session where everybody can get the same information from her versus she or Mr. Stepp having to individually work with everybody on their questions, because a lot of us are going to have the same ones. And some of us are new to this process entirely. And those of you who've been through the process before, TISA is new entirely. So we're all kind of going into this new and fresh with what we're doing at this
But part of
point.
that is the fact that we are tied to the fact that we can only do it in either an open meeting or one-on-one.
And we
So
will have
that's-
the committee meetings that we can all join in and ask questions.
One of the concerns is that in our annual operating budget policy, which Nick, you're asking about the timeline and what the plan is, it says the board shall provide a proposed budget in accordance with the budget timeline established by the board and the county commission. We haven't been given a timeline. If a budget timeline is not agreed upon, the board shall submit a proposed budget to the county commission no later than May 1st. May 1st is like a few days away. So, and we've had no work sessions, committee meetings. We just got the budget information from the first draft last Friday per our request. So,
Okay, well,
That's right.
I mean, this is getting away from old business. This is new business. So if you want to discuss it, I would strongly suggest, contact Mr. Stepp and find out. He and I should get together soon and set a timeline, but we do not have to have our our budget to the county commission by May 1st.
So what is the timeline we've agreed
They will
with the
give
county commission?
us, they will give us, they don't know yet what day they're gonna have us present our budget. They will let us know that at the end of May.
I mean, if we have to modify that policy to make it a little more general,
Yes.
then I certainly would look at,
Yeah, I mean,
I think we need to look over our BARD policies as a whole and make sure that we're operating within them, and if there's something we do need to modify, because it just doesn't fit going forward. So that's something we can talk about in a work session.
Thank you. Is there, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, this kind of piggybacks off of it under old business. I was, Madam Chair, going to make a motion to set a date for an informational professional development budget training session on the 23-24 budget and process.
You can't make a motion, I mean, that's not on the agenda. It was brought up during old business, but it's not on the agenda, and why are you making a motion?
Because I've been told that we need to make a motion and vote if we want to have this kind of meeting to get some training on the budget.
how about, do you and when will you and Mr. Stepp set a date with the executive committee to review the budget?
I have no idea.
Well, my request is to do it immediately. Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Stepp? We got it immediately. We've got board members that are asking questions, and I think the executive committee is the first step. Okay?
Yes, sir, I have military duty tomorrow, so it'd probably be Monday.
Monday, okay?
Yeah, I leave tonight for the.
Do you have, that's right, the next 2 weekends after this weekend and next weekend in July. Do you have anything scheduled, Madam Chairperson,
For
on
Monday?
Monday?
No.
All right, so figure out a time, do it so that we can move forward, please.
I think Mr. Stepp being the director of schools and myself being the chairman, I think we can handle that.
I hope
But
so.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. You've made a motion to do what?
To set a date for an informational professional development budget training session for the 23-24 budget and the process.
Okay. I mean, you'll need a second.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call. The motion on the floor is to set a date for an informational and training on the budget.
Budget and process, the budget.
Budget and process. Ms. Stoll?
No.
Mr. Safdie?
I'm a little confused. Is this a legal issue?
No, I have no idea.
Well, I have no problems with setting a date, but I think the executive committee is the.
I think we've got to get to where we need to be before we can set a date to do an informational. If you want to do an informational, I'm not sure what information you're looking for.
On the budget process and on the departments and the what funds, federal, ESSER, local, school,
Okay,
you know,
let's
how
just
all that
go-
goes into the buckets for the departments
Let's
and what
just
the
go ahead
process
and
is for the budget.
address your motion. Elizabeth, your vote was no. Mr. Safdie?
No.
Ms. Nichols?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby?
No.
Ms. Hale?
No.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
And chairperson votes no. So we'll postpone that until we have some further dates. Anything from the news media? Okay, one of these days you're gonna ask me a question, I'm gonna be ready.
She has, Miss Diane.
Ms. Diane?
Mr. Elijah Vandiver is our Phoenix rep, and he's been here all night. I didn't want us to forget about him.
Mr. Who?
Elijah Vandiver.
Thanks for hanging in there.
He's hiding.
I'm sorry, he slipped in on me and I'm so sorry.
He's been here. He was one of our scope students.
Well, I thought that's why he was
Okay.
sitting over there,
Yeah,
because
I
he
do
was one of the
too.
kids.
He's also our rep.
Well, thank you
I
for being with
apologize.
us.
Thank you.
Mr. Elijah Vandiver, thank you for being patient.
Amen.
We do appreciate it, and thank you for being here. Do you happen to know Tim Vandiver?
Yes, that's my dad.
Oh, you admitted that out loud?
Maybe I shouldn't have.
Keep that out of the news meeting. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
Any further business? If
I make
not,
a motion, we adjourn.
I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
to adjourn. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I know, I can't go nowhere.
Say aye, I feel like I'm a pilot.
I know.